Well, hello again to the family. I have another story or two to read you tonight. And the first story is called The Lost Mittens. Jane Ling had lost her mittens. "Oh, Jane, that's the second pair," sighed Susan. "When will you learn to remember where you put things?" Mother bought Jane another pair, bright red. "Oh, I'll never lose them," Jane smiled. She wore them proudly to kindergarten the next morning. It was a snowy, blowy day, so they didn't go out to recess. Instead, they played games inside, and Jane had such fun she forgot she was supposed to remember anything at all. At noon, she struggled into snow pants and coat and hood. Jane was always the last kindergartner out of the school. Finally, she pulled on her boots. They were big boots because they had been Toby's, so usually they went on easily. But today they didn't. And by the time Jane had fastened them, the older children were getting out. Jane saw Susan. "Wait, Susan," she cried. "Are you still here?" Susan cried. "Where are your mittens?" "In my pockets," Jane said. But they weren't there. Both she and Jane looked. There were no red mittens to be seen. "Oh, Jane," cried Susan, "did you lose your new pair?" Jane blinked back 2 tears and followed Susan home. She went into the house and began to pull off her boots. And then, as the first boot came off, Jane shouted, "Susan, I did remember. I put them in here to keep them safe." Out of the toe of one boot, she pulled a red mitten, and out of the toe of the other came another red mitten. "I remembered all right," Jane said proudly. "Only thing is, I forgot to remember what I remembered." "Oh, that one is so silly. How could you forget that there were shoes in the tips of your toes?" "Well, I guess if you had bigger shoes like she did." "Oh. Well, that is an interesting story, isn't it?" All right, and then the next story we have, and this one should get us on track, is Polly Plays Tug-O-War. And here's a nice picture. By the way, here's a picture for the missing gloves. You can see her looking in her pockets for her missing gloves. She has no clue they're in her shoes. Anyway, Polly Plays Tug-O-War. Baby Polly was having her bath. She sat in her little tub and grabbed for the washcloth as Mother rubbed it over her. "Ah!" she cried in joy as she caught it at last. Straight to her mouth it went, and she chewed it hard. "Oh, Polly, no, no," Mother laughed. She tugged at the washcloth. Polly clamped all 4 of her teeth on it and held on tight. It was just like a game of tug-of-war. Mother tugged again. Polly held on harder. Mother had an idea. The sunshine coming through the window reflected on Polly's bathwater and made dancing lights on the ceiling as the water moved. Mother stirred the water briskly and then pointed to the ceiling. "Look, Polly," she said. "See the pretty rainbows?" Polly looked up. When she saw the bright dancing flickers on the ceiling, she laughed out loud. "Ha ha ha!" she shouted, reaching for them. Of course, when she laughed, out of her mouth dropped the washcloth. Mother quietly picked it up and went on with Polly's bath. And Polly, laughing at the pretty lights, never knew she'd lost that game of tug-o-war. Well, that one's another neat story. I really liked how the mom didn't have to say, "No, Polly, you let that washcloth go." She just found a nice, pleasant way of distracting her. That's really neat. Well, I have a couple of things to do today, so I guess it's best time I said, good night, Ava. Good night, Gideon. Good night, Archer. Good night, Fletcher. And good night, Elias. You guys have a great morning tomorrow. I'll see you again soon.